Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Grandpa Mark's Hobbies and a finale of my Revell Ford Bronco kit. I got to thank Lennis again for sending this to me because I don't know if I would have ever even thought to get it, but I sure did have a blast with this. So let's get the guys out of the way. They're doing the finishing touches, making sure everything's working right. These guys are getting, oh, geez, making sure that tire holder is staying in place. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We did have fun with that too. So, right off the rip, this thing went together pretty stinking good. I did have some problems with it, but I think all the problems I had were from me. So, the kit is really great. I just tried to do a little extra to it and a few other things that just didn't work out the way I planned. But all in all, I'm really happy with the way it came out. Let's take the top out of the way, and we'll show you the interior. I'm super happy with the interior, except for the gap right here, which I will be making a little piece of styrene. I even have it out. I just wanted to get this video out for you today. But I'm going to make a little blocker here. That's not the kit's fault. That's because of what I did to the kit. That should fit nice and tight up against there, and it would if it didn't have to be pushed out by all the wires and things that I added. But I painted, like I talked about, I painted the fender wells the same color as the body, and I'm glad I did. I hem-hawed around about it and wasn't sure if I was going to, but that sure makes it look like the floor just has that rubber mat down in it laid right over top of the paint like a pickup truck would. Not sure if that's the way that the Bronco was, but that's the way my Bronco is because I just like that look. I use the decals on the seats, and I use gray panel liner on the seats just to take that from that real bright white like this is down to a little bit, it looks more like the leather. But that came out really good. The chrome on this thing went very good. The body paint, I struggled with. This was supposed to be the light blue, my sky blue, but I bought that sky blue early in the winter, or late in the winter. And I think something was wrong. It either sat way too long or it got frozen and then thawed and then frozen again and thawed because it did not spray properly at all. So I nixed the light blue and ended up going with just Tamiya's blue, which is X4, I believe. Yeah, Tamiya's blue. And I'm kind of glad it did because it really shows off the white stripes. The decals are awfully thin. Just a heads up on that. Especially this one fell in nice. I talked about that in my last update, how this went down nice. But the two on the side bodies, they were kind of a bear. They're real thin. So they checked and kind of, as they dried, they kind of split right down at the bottoms. And that's where I was handling it too. I can't blame the decals for it. I can blame myself. I started messing before I did the clear coat on here. Clear coat is just quick shine, one coat. I don't want a super gloss on these because they didn't come from the factory with the super gloss. And this is built as a 71, brand new, right off the truck from the showroom. And I'm going to steal one of Lennis's ideas with how he displayed his, and you'll see that down the road. But everybody that's part of the Grandpa Mark's Hobbies group page on Facebook already knows it was really cool. Again, decals went down well. They just are so super thin that you have to watch that you don't snap them. I'm going to get this hood out of the way. I did open them up at the panels on the doors. I'm not sure why you're not seeing that as well as they are on the camera, but when I did that, I let these dry real good. Then I cut that. Then I heat it again with the Microsolve and let it pull itself into those cracks. And it did a good job of that. Again, I microsolved all the decals on this. I want them to meld into that paint as best as they could before I hit it with the quick shine. No silvering at all. They laid down good. The only ones I'm bummed out about are the battery ones. Who would put dark red on a decal that goes down on semi-gloss black? They're gone. They're there, but you can't see them. I can't see them. I even had my glasses on and I couldn't see them. But they're there. The fan one, since it's a little bit bigger, it showed up. This caution fan on it. And the one on the air cleaner worked out real well. The only difference that the instruction said between this being a 71 and a 73 is on a 73 you cut this piece off and rotate it over so it kind of comes out at an angle. Not sure why. Probably has something to do with getting it away from the top of the grill where it rolls over or something. And the last update, I for some reason went completely dumb, and I was thinking that this opened this way. And everybody was right. I was thinking of the International Scout, or the International, it's over there somewhere, the Scout 2, where that opens that way. This does open this way. No hinges on here. No hinges available. But that's the way it opens. I will display it like this so that everybody can see the engine. The engine, since we're talking about it, I did run wires. I'll bring it right up. I talked about it last. The battery, I didn't run any wires from it because they already run down, and the starter solenoid's right there. So I was afraid I'd bulk it up too much that way. So pretty much all I did with this is the spark plug wires, the spring, the return spring, and the throttle line running to the back. And that's it. Everything else is just right out of the box. I didn't do brake lines or fuel lines or anything underneath. I did run the fuel line up top, though. But everything else is pretty much straight out of the box. And I had a blast doing it. I did drill this out. I talked about that before. And then I painted it silver first. Then I drilled it out. Then I painted black on the inside just to give it some depth. And that was just really because, man, it's either blue, black, or the wire's yellow in there. The radiator hose is in there. It's not ever going to go anywhere, but it is not glued in. It's just a pressure fit. I went to dry fit it, and it went click. And I was like, oh, okay. Left it. The radiator itself is three pieces. The radiator fan, or the cover, the radiator, and the radiator support. Glued all those together, came down in here, and again, the light wires came in and dropped down. So what I had to do is at the very bottom of that piece, on both sides, I cut in maybe 1/8 of an inch and just cut up and over and made a notch so that went around them. And I left the two pins, the locator pins, to where it'll go down into the frame. And that worked perfect. There's more than enough room for those wires to go through, and it's still lined up on where it was supposed to. So I was really happy with that. The suspension underneath, I talked about before. It's so weird to do a clean engine like that, or a clean body. The only thing I did was I panel lined my exhaust. Everything else is just painted. No weathering whatsoever on it. But I didn't want to dirty it up. I got into it and I was like, this is really sharp. I didn't even dirty up the bottom of the tires. I left everything the way it was. And I'm happy with it. I really like it. I got a trailer. It will hit the trailer. But how fun is that? I did panel line my shocks just to give those recesses a look so you can see them a little better. And man, that's about it. Just panel lined the highlights just to hide everything, but no dry brushing, no pastels, nothing at all. Just left it go. The two locator pins, I painted silver. So it looks like it's bolted on there. I thought that was pretty cool. Everything else is just pretty much right out of the box. The wires, I didn't try to hide. No sense in it. They're underneath, they're buried. I ran down both sides and came in. So laundry's done. So they tie into the backlights right about in the middle. And what that did is that, again, pushed this panel out a little bit because the wires had to go there. There was nothing I can do about that. So they come down the side together. They tie into these two lights out here. Then I pulled everything in and kind of put it underneath as best I could in this back panel because there wasn't enough room on the side panels. It just would have bound up going down. So I figured I'll flex this out a little bit, put it in, say that's good enough. I'll put a little trim piece in here that's not supposed to be there. I don't know if I might just paint it black and say good enough. I'll cut it to fit and everything. Just was doing a bunch of running around and didn't want to get into it today. So that's there. The wires are there. You can even see a little bit of light bleed through here that little piece of wood or that little piece of panel cover up. And I think, seriously, when this is all said and done, with that little piece of panel there, you won't even recognize that it's not supposed to be there. So there's that. Again, the chrome on this, all the little pieces, there's not a whole lot, but what there is went together and went on really nice. The headlights, the grill, it went on. It almost locked in. It felt like it was locked in, but I did glue it. The front bumper has really nice glue points on it. It's not like you're going to finicky with it and one's going to be cattywampus. They glue in there and they're in. Same with the back ones. They glue in, they're in. The turn signals, even with me screwing around with them, they went in there and locked in nice. The little reflectors on the bottom, this one went in great. This one over here, when I went to cut it off, I'm holding it in my hand. I took the snips and cut it, and it wasn't in my hands anymore. It's gone. Fortunately, I got a cement floor down here, and after about 45 minutes of looking for it, I thought, hey, it's chrome. So I turned the lights off and used my flashlight, and that quick I found it, and it was good to go. So turning the light off, I wouldn't have found it if I didn't turn the light off because I looked there 20 times already. But that went on. Then I put this on. We talked about the rear tire and the lights. The lights went on good. I tried something different. And I've been asked a couple of times what happens if the LEDs go bad. Same thing that had happened if the quick shine with the LEDs that went bad. I would pull the battery and let it be not lit anymore. Because even with the quick shine, I used to super glue the LEDs in place and then use the quick shine to get that fog away. Well, this time I pulled the LED through, and then I used UV resin and a UV light to glue those in. So I just put a little dab of UV resin on top of the LED, just enough to get it around it and everything. And then I pulled the wire back tight, hit it with the UV light for 60 seconds, glued in. So much better than messing around trying to get them to hold in place while the quick shine dries or the super glue dries. It's just, man, you're done. So I thought, wow, that was great. The backlights, I drilled the teeny holes in them and then got them out of the way, drilled a bigger hole right behind them. The bigger hole I put the LED into, smeared a little bit of that UV on it, hit it with the light. The LED was locked in, flush with the plastic. put these lights over top of it. Now you got a little pinhole of light coming through there, just like the light bulb would be. I took some UV resin and went over the top of this to cover that little hole up that I drilled through there so the light could come through. Hit that with the UV light, and then painted it all with the clear red. And man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna do that from now on. If you can't get the if it doesn't have, like, on the glass on the front, if it's just the chrome, I can drill that hole in there. I can put the light into the hole, put the UV resin in there, build it up a little bit, hit it with the UV light, and now there's a lens there and everything, and that UV resin will pull that light around it just like this lens does. So I think that's going to be the way I do my lights from now on, because it's just so fast. We talked about this. The battery is right there. All I'm using is a little tiny copper washer that is actually a stake-on that I cut the end piece off, soldered the wire to it, and I'm using my silver duct tape to make contact. So it works really good, except for the battery is metal and likes to try to stick to the magnets. So it's working great. It's hiding them. There's no other place on here that I could have figured out to hide it, to get it out of the way and look good. I even thought of making a little box in the back, and I thought, there's already one there. Let's finagle that thing. But what I didn't take into consideration, and I should have, so this was a heck of a learning curve for me. If I ever build one of these, which I probably will because I had so much fun, again, I'm going to do things a little different, but there's not a whole lot more that I can do. This backer plate is just glued onto these two little rods that come back and around, which, if you're just building the kit, this backer plate actually goes onto a brace on this piece. Well, to get the LED or the battery in there, I had to cut all that out of there. So now all I got are two little tiny glue points on all four sides. And what I did is I didn't think things through, and I had everything painted. I tried to make it work right with the super glue and stuff like that. Well, what's super glue do with paint? It pulls off. So I ended up just having a mess. I tried the UV resin and glue it on with that. That didn't work for squat because the light couldn't get around into the center of it. So if I was thinking ahead, like I said, I would have put that together before I painted it, and for sure before I glued this piece in place. So what I did is I glued this the support bar in place, and then I tried to glue that backer on, just so, because I wanted this in place to know where I drill that hole. Well, I could have drilled that hole a 1/4 inch on either side, and you would have never seen the wires anyhow. So if you're going to do this, this works great, but glue that to these rods before anything's painted or in place, and use your thin glue that would PVC melt them together, and then it's not going anywhere. So I kind of got a little bit of a glue bomb going on behind it, but once this is on, you can't really see it anyhow. And to be honest with you, I'm okay. It was a huge learning curve to get that one in for this one. And I've done a bunch of lights before. This one kind of got me just because of the gap between everything and trying to support everything. So now I know. I even pre-planned everything, but I didn't pre-plan it for my stupidity. So now we're all built. The only thing I had to do was get this front piece on and the two side windows and the glass in here. And I'm thinking the UV worked really good for the light lenses. So let's tack weld the windows in place with the UV. So I did. These drop in from the outside, which made things a little different. But what I did is I took a toothpick and got some of that UV resin on it and went in the four corners and right here on these light or on the glass. Put that thing down, hit it for the 60-second cycle on the light. It was solid as a rock. Then I came back with quick shine and I did my quick shine through this side. And I let that quick shine wick in around that light all the way around. So now I tack welded it with that and held it tight. Then I quick shined it and welded the whole thing, or just glued the whole thing to the plastic. And that worked really good for this. The front window it worked really good for. And then the side windows, if I ever build this kit again, and I keep saying that, the side windows, I'm going to build this frame. I don't want this glass here. It just, I would rather have it, I want to display it with the top off. And with the top off and the windows up, it kind of looks weird. So it kind of forces your hand into using the top just so those windows, let me get this to where I can hold it, so those windows look right closed. If you know what I mean. They just don't, to me, they don't look right without that top on. It just kind of looks like, I would have those windows rolled down. But if you roll this window down, and I even talked about it before, you'd need to make a frame right here around it. So what I would do is I would cut this off all the way, get it out of the way, glue this piece in place, and then build my frame on here to match the top, and then just paint it all silver like I did at the end anyhow. And that would leave that framework, because that doesn't go down with the window, and then it would be an open window, and that would look a whole lot better. The other thing, and thank you very much for the heads up, is when you're gluing a glass on when you're gluing this piece on, have these pieces in place where they're supposed to go, so you get that angle right, so the top lays down there right. Got some dirt on the top. Just a good heads up. I used super glue down here to hold this in place. I used UV resin on the bottom of the windows to hold them in place. And these were finagly. They're in the right place. If you put this on here, they line up with the back very well. But for some reason, with them where they were supposed to be, I couldn't get this to pull all the way in tight on the passenger side. It just wanted to pull back like a 1/16 of an inch off of this top piece. And I looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and here what it was doing was it was hitting the very corner of the dashboard. And that dashboard's glued in exactly where it's supposed to be, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. And if you even look, my chassis is gapped right here. So I'm not sure what was going on with that, but it just wouldn't let that go. So I had to trim that corner out to get this to roll back in, because it was pinning right there. Once I did that, this thing dropped in, dropped the glue on there, hit it with the light, and it was good. So it took me a good hour to figure out what the heck I was doing wrong here to get that to lay right. And I still don't know why I'm not flush in the back here. There's just a tiniest gap. This is painted. I need to touch this up with, because it's still the light blue. But there is just the tiniest gap back here on that side that it should be closed up, but this piece is tight. So I'm not sure how that ended up doing that. The roll bar I knocked off, went right back on, no problem. But that happened. But that interior, the dashboard, I'm in love with it. It came out really good. Like I said, I wanted a new car, and that's what I got. Lights are working, front and back. And with the lights off in the shop, this light is enough to make these two glow, which is really cool because it looks like I have these lit when they aren't. So I'm jazzed about that. I didn't expect that. But other than the little problems I had that now that you know about will make it easy. If this thing doesn't line up, you might have to cut your corners off a little bit. And just think about when you're cutting your corners off, cut them off enough to where it'll fit. When this drops in, it'll hide that cut mark. So you're okay there. And then the wiring, making problems that just took way longer than I wanted to figure out. But this thing was a total blast, except for the dirt that I got on there somehow. The top. I forgot to tell you about the top. I didn't paint it. I didn't paint it at all. I didn't need to. It looks great. So why mess with it? It matched the decals perfectly. So I figured if I try to paint it, I'm going to have to prime it and then paint it white, then polish it or sand it, then polish it just to bring it back to where I already am. So I just left it go. Not as a time saver, just as it just worked out better. There's no sense in wasting the paint and the time and everything else. So with that, I want to show you what we're going to bring up next, but I'll do that at the end of the music video. So I want to thank Gallery for all their help. They're really helping my painting skills because I always thought it was me until I started using their airbrushes, and then I realized that the garbage airbrushes I were using were garbage airbrushes, and these things are really helping me out. I want to thank our veterans, our active duty people, and our first responders. You're keeping us safe and out of harm's way, and I salute every one of you. I want to remind everybody that we are doing our first annual breast cancer awareness 24-hour group build, October 11th, 2025, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. It'll run in conjunction with Bob's Model Works Chris Cortell Annual Cancer Awareness Group Build, which runs from October 1st to October 31st. A link is in the description for that one, so check that out too and sign up for his. Also in the description is a link to the GoFundMe page I set up for the American Cancer Society. We're going to take donations the whole time we're building, and you can start now if you want. But all the proceeds are going to the American Cancer Society, so any help you can give would be greatly appreciated. I want to say hi to Jason, Mike, and Bruce every other Thursday night in the summer and every Thursday night in the winter for putting on Automotive Model Car Livecast. It's about the most fun you're going to have on a Thursday night. So with that, let's fire up the music, and then I'll bring you back and I'll show you what's next on the chopping block. All right, before I show you what's next, I had a bunch of people ask me, what do I do with all the boxes and that I have when I'm done with my builds? Well, what I do with the boxes is I take and I cut the fronts off. And then I go on the inside and I label when I started and when I finished. And I put this in my drawer. And I keep this and the instructions. Eventually what I want to do is get like a binder so I can put the covers in. What I really want to do eventually is turn this into wall art, where I have all of these things put up on the wall to where I can have all the different builds that I did. And then I want to have these in a nice binder where I have all of them set up to where if anybody ever needs anything, they can ask. But that's that. And now the next on my build is this. What this is the trailer from the Revell Prowler kit. I've had this for a while. I wasn't sure what was gonna do with it until Revell came out with their motorcycle kit. Talk about a block of chrome, huh? But whoops, don't want to lose that. I'm going to build the Revell motorcycle kit next. I am going to make a trailer hitch for it and use the trailer from the Prowler kit. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because that Prowler kit, or that Prowler trailer, is going to hold my battery. And I'm going to light the Prowler, and I'm going to light the headlights and taillights on the motorcycle too. So that's next on the block. And with that, I will let you go. I appreciate you hanging around till the end. Y'all have a great day and a better tomorrow. And thank you very much for watching.